first the technical side, and then we'll hop over to the fundamental side, take a look at what happened with Kevin Warsh and the rest of bank of or central bank officials as well. All right, starting off, let's just confirm we're good on YouTube real quick too. Okay, perfect. Alright, let's start off with the technical side, then we'll come back and take a look at what happened with all the central bank officials at the annual forum. Let's remove NASDAQ alerts as well. We're going to start off with the equities, we'll move over to the commodities, then we'll come back to the currencies. Starting off with the weekly time frame, still got really nice bullish momentum. We're breaking our own weekly highs at the moment for US 30. Our next stop is coming into 52,700. Tomorrow is NFP, so just be a little careful as you're looking for your trades today. And this is our 51,800. Drop down to the daily time frame. We had our, I'm going to create a line here. We had our resistance here, all this consolidation. Last daily candle is the first one that closed bullish. The current one is just barely breaking the previous daily high, which is showing us really good momentum. As long as we're above that and we can continue pushing, we are solid. So very specifically, what we need to see here is candle closures. We just had a 15-minute candle closure, so I want to see a 15-minute candle closure above here. Next candle breaking the lows, or creating a bottom wick, and then pushing back up, breaking the highs. So we got a really strong 15-minute candle closure here. The current one, I'm going to set an alert right above it to see if it's going to break the highs. If it breaks the highs and flips back up bullish, if you look to the left, it's just clean movement to the upside to come back into 52,600, potentially even come back and tap into 52,700. I just rounded up, but you can keep it at 52,667 if you wanted to, exact numbers. And then if price comes right back down, I'm going to hop back up to the 1 hour time frame. I'm going to take a look at another support or reactionary area, which seems to be right around here. Nothing in between. If price breaks below 52,300, then I take those sells for about 100 points down into 52,200, and then a continuation down for another 100 points into 52,100. Any questions on US 30? Everything makes sense?
Yes, I'm good on US 30. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, perfect. Let's go over to NASDAQ now. And here we have our zone to zone trade. We've already tapped into the weekly resistance, just now looking for a pullback down, 30,400. NASDAQ is going to continue to move in this consolidation here until potentially even tomorrow, which is really when we get our signals of what are we expecting in terms of rate hikes for the remainder of the year. We're also going to take a look at what Kevin Warsh said. If he said anything that would give us hints about potential rate hikes as well. So based off the daily time frame, we've already created a low. We want to see if price can continue breaking below that low, which is going to give us those clean moves to come back down into 29,000, which is about, you're looking at, let's go back here, about an 800 point move. Yeah, about an 814 point move to the downside if price can continue breaking its low. Come over to the 4 hour time frame. We held on to that resistance late into New York session, started pulling back down all throughout Asian. This is the big move that happened during London session before a rejection, and then candles came back and closed right up top here. And here's the new 4 hour candle that just started forming about 20 minutes ago. Same thing with US 30, where you had that massive bottom wick rejection and then it closed back up bullish. So what I'm going to do is update this zone to say that if we continue breaking below this low here, now I see to the left that there's clearly a support. If price can continue breaking below this, then we're coming back down for that wick fill. If price continues holding onto a support, no trade. in this zone unless price can break these highs, continue pushing back up. Now, what that also does is that you had that massive bullish momentum to the upside after all this consolidation. That was your liquidity grab candle on Monday here at 7 o'clock, after which we really started that bullish momentum to come back into these previous highs, into those equal weekly highs as well. So that momentum. Now here, if we can see that price breaks above that previous high, then you just change that structure. You have now a previous broken high. Continuing with that bullish structure, you're not really guessing or trying to hop in early if price does end up consolidating. If all eyes are towards NFP tomorrow and trying to get that additional data point to see if we're actually going to get those rate hikes as early as September or even October, then obviously today you're going to see a lot of consolidation. When you go back and you take a look at how price reacts before interest rates or even NFP, or even with the PCE data points that came out, any data point that's about to come out that the entire market is watching towards and there's a lot of reliance on it to give us direction, you're always going to see that a day before, there's always going to be a lot of consolidation within that zone, and there's going to be a lot of liquidity grabs and sweeps that are going to be happening, which is just traps. We also saw in the market update yesterday when I was pulling up the Bank of America research side and the equity strategy departments, who were telling their clients, excuse me, their institutional clients to start taking profit. And then also we had the research side saying that, you know, you're going to see a lot of bull traps, especially with S&P 500. You're going to see the same exact thing with NASDAQ and US 30 as well. So just be careful with those. Wait for your candle closures. I'm going to have my alert set at 30,200 and then another one right at 30,000. If price continues breaking below that, then we're coming back down into 30,000 or 29,800. And then after that, a continuation down into 29,000. All right, let's come over to commodities here now. We got a nice bounce with gold. Then we'll hop over to currencies to see if there's anything happening in the market that's different than the weekly outlook or even the market update that we did yesterday. So that is your 3943.7. Where price broke the previous weekly low just by a little bit, tapped into the previous lows here, into the support, and then it's starting to bounce back up bullish. The key thing that I'm watching for as I drop down to lower time frames, just waiting for cleaner price action, is if price can continue holding above this little consolidation area right here. If it's above that, then I'm just looking for a bullish momentum to come back up into these previous highs of 42.67. Drop down to the daily, and that is where you have, let's actually come back to the weekly real quick, because what I want to map out is going to be this previous support area here as my range. So that's going to be my range. And then on the daily time frame, I want price to continue holding above this area right here. If it continues holding above that, continues to push on lower time frames, then we have a nice buy opportunity. So same exact thing that we're just discussing with NASDAQ, where it was in a downtrend, bit of a corrective move, and then after that a bounce back up. It's the same exact thing with gold, right? But gold is following that downtrend from the higher time frames. So just to confirm, if we're actually bouncing back up and we will have enough momentum to come back up into, let's just say 4,200, you need the candle closures here. And then on the 30-minute, 15-minute, you need the break and retest, which is going to give you that confirmation to continue pushing. So on the 15-minute, you have a break and retest that's setting up at the moment. You have a 30-minute candle closure here in about 6 minutes. I would rather wait for a 30-minute candle closure above this area and then hopefully fill in that wick, if not break it a little bit in the next 6 minutes, which will give me that confirmation that we have enough bullish volume. Now it's going to be a confirmation of entry after that, which means that after the 30-minute candle closes above this wick or a little bit higher, then I want the next candle to give me a bottom wick and continue pushing. What's that going to do is on the 15-minute, you already have a break and retest. You have a bullish candle closure that's going to close somewhere up top here, hopefully, if the 30-minute follows what we just said. Then the next candle should give you a break and retest here, or it should give you a bottom wick, which is rejecting the sellers, respecting this entire area as a new support to continue pushing back up. Now you have clean movements after that to really come back up into these previous highs, into 41.43 or a little bit higher. So we're going to set an alert right on top, a little bit room, but right on top of that top wick, or right back into the zone and then continuation back down. All right, now we have our silver. which is doing the same exact thing as gold, but it didn't break the previous lows here. So it tapped into that support. And then that is going to be my range into those previous wick rejections. Come down to the daily time frame. I see a clear support formation, wick rejection, another wick rejection. Quite similar to gold in the sense that we were sitting in this weekly support area consolidating, finally breaking above that. This one has broken the previous daily highs as well. Pushing back up, the 4 hour is currently at the top of its range. Hourly had a really strong bullish candle closure outside of that consolidation. Current one is making a bottom wick and then pushing back up bullish as well. Let's see if we have any break and retest. On the 15-minute we do. So wait for this 30-minute candle closure. Wait for price to continue pushing. I want candle closure into the zone or a little bit higher. And then next candle breaking that high, pushing back up, you've got your buys to the upside. I would not be looking for sells on silver just yet because I want to see either a resistance formation and then a pullback. As that happens, wait for the first 15-minute candle closure bearish and then the next one to break the lows and take that down, or it comes all the way down here and you have zone to zone trades that you can look at again here. Alright, now let's look at our currencies. JPY USD is trying to push back up bullish. It has broken the previous daily high. Has not really triggered our alert here just yet. So I'm going to wait for the actual candle closures outside of the zone, which is my daily resistance and support, and even the weekly levels. If I can get some candle closures, at least on the hourly here, then we can take a look at if we have any potential moves. But as of right now, not much. It just seems like we're just sitting in the range here. Same thing with Euro USD. This was off of the weekly time frame support, resistance. This week we don't really have much of a direction, sitting like a wick. And then the current daily candle did try to break the previous lows, came back up, closed above, or it's currently above 1.138. Same thing on the 4 hour, which it did try to break below, came back up. So nothing here just yet either. JPY also just consolidating. And we're not really doing much with USD JPY. So our pairs for today are going to be US 30, NASDAQ, gold, and silver. Alright, now let's take a look at our data points today, and then we'll go back and take a look at the headlines. So we had a bunch of central bank officials. We'll take a look at that on Bloomberg. And then ISM Services PMI, or ISM Manufacturing PMI, sorry, came out just a little bit below the previous. Let's open that up. Yeah, so the actual was 54. We're expecting a bit of a decrease, ended up getting a little bit more, but overall we're still sitting in the industry expansion here. Alright, so here we were expecting a drop, ended up getting a little bit more of a drop, which is a good thing. Let's come down here. So this is level of prices paid for goods and services. So as long as the numbers are dropping here, above 50 indicates rising prices, below indicates falling prices. So as long as we're starting to drop a little bit closer, try to get closer to the 50, that is going to be a good thing in terms of inflation control, because if you start to see that prices are increasing here, then obviously manufacturing is going to push those higher prices over to the retail side, which is then going to push it over to the consumers. So we want right now an environment where it's lower prices, which is really going to help with controlling that inflation, but also means that we might potentially only get 2 rate hikes. So these are the data points that we're following very closely to figure that out. Now let's come over here. Let's pull these up. Oh, we also had ADP today. Where is that? Alright, we open up a lot less jobs compared to what we're forecasting. So this one doesn't have too heavy of an impact, but that means that we're probably going to get a big cushion when it comes to NFP. So 114K, I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped this a little bit more, given how much we have missed the forecast by with ADP non-farm. Jolt's drop openings is kind of, that has also dropped. So the actual last month was 7.62 million. They adjusted that to 7.5. So then it looks like it came out to exactly as the previous. So obviously it seems like combine the two, you have less jobs that are opening up. I wouldn't be surprised if they change this number closer to 100 or just below 100, which provides a huge cushion room. So even if NFP tomorrow comes out to, let's say, 140, 130, or anything that's a huge miss from whatever the previous was, you still have that cushion to get that initial reaction that you quote unquote did better than forecast when you really didn't. Alright, let's come here. So I should pull this up just to see if there's any other news on specific industries. It's not an acceleration in the labor market. That's the key thing that you need to just read and understand. Low hire, but importantly low fire. Which means that they're trying to say it's a low job creation environment at the moment. Alright, so the key thing is that it's come out a little bit softer compared to the huge numbers that we had last month, showing that the labor market is strong. So this is your first initial data point. NFP is going to confirm that as whether that's actually going to be considered a crack in the market or not. Alright, let's take a look at what Whoosh has said. We're looking for hints of anything that he's going to give us basically in this Q&A environment of what type of policy we should be expecting going forward. If we're expecting more rate hikes, which means that we're looking for anything around him saying that prices are increasing too fast, we have to control that. But it seems like he has said that prices have come down in recent weeks. The only thing that we have gotten from him is that the Fed is starting a new course, or they're going to chart a new course. So he's obviously super against forward guidance. We didn't get a clear answer to that just yet. So that means we're going to continue paying attention to what the rest of the FOMC members are saying whenever they do speak to see if there's going to be any sort of hints there. Seems like the Fed is kind of divided at the moment between we're for sure going to get rate hikes, but how many are we going to end up getting? Now looking at the 30-minute candle closures, while we're still looking at the headlines, US 30 came back and it closed right into this previous resistance area. Current one already creating a bottom wick. Come back to the 15. The previous one closed bearish down here. The new 15 did gap up a little bit, filled in that gap immediately. What you're going to look for is drop down to the 5 minute. This is where your volume, testing the volume and all that's going to happen. You want a strong bullish 5 minute candle closure here. So a ton of volume. You don't want anything that's a massive top wick and the body closes out small like that. That still shows you indecision. So you want a strong body closure, and then the next candle is what takes you back up. Let's come over to NASDAQ. Has closed. Let's see. The previous one has closed right above the zone. The new one just started forming, starting to push back down, trying to see if it can break the previous lows here. The 15 was also weak bearish. The current 15 is starting to push back down. Come on to the 5. And we got our first 5 minute candle closure below the zone. So if this one can break the low and continue pushing, clean moves to the downside. But it's very important that we continue to break our own lows here. Where NASDAQ is pushing. Just give it a couple of seconds here though. JPY USD is now breaking out of this daily consolidation. Drop down to the 4 hour, 1 hour. Did we get any strong candle closures here? The 30 minute did not really break the previous highs here. Came back and closed closer to this previous resistance. The new 30, there's no bottom wick, starting to push back up. So in an environment like this is where a lot of retail traders would jump in. You don't want to make that mistake because this was a major support area off of the weekly. Daily time frame was consolidating. So your 30-minute candle that just started forming without even kicking the sellers out, who have been sitting here for a very long time, is really not going to take you to these previous high levels. If anything, you're going to end up becoming a wick rejection. What you want to see here instead is get at least a 1 hour strong candle closure. That's the bare minimum for this trade to continue pushing. This trade has the potential to run up into those previous highs for at least a couple of 100 pips. So just this move right here is 60 pips, and then coming back up into previous highs is about 162 pips. And then after that, if it comes up to the next high, it's almost a 200 pip move. Your 30-minute candle that's just pushing with no bottom wick, and the previous one barely had a bottom wick as well, it's not going to take you up for about 162 pips. So you just want to be careful here. This is just confirming that the bullish structure has started, and it's starting to push back up bullish. We can look for potential buy opportunities, but they just have not set up at the moment. So it's very different just to see that there's potential for a move versus your actual trade confirmation. On the 15-minute, same exact thing. No bottom wick here either. And then we ended up consolidating just a little bit right into that resistance area. So just wait for those candle closures. Get a bottom wick, at least on the hourly candle. Get a stronger break and retest. And you have your trade to the upside that you can catch. We had another hit on gold. So on gold, you had a 30-minute candle closure. Did tap into the previous highs, but didn't really break that. The current one made a bottom wick, starting to push back up, drop down to the 15. So this is a setup that we're talking about as price continues to push back up. You come down to the 5. You got a break and retest formation even on the 5-minute time frame right above these previous highs. So now with this new 5-minute, you wait for it to close bearish, give you another break and retest, push the highs, and continue to the upside, or it just makes a bottom wick and then flips back up. You only have less than 2 minutes left, so just wait for the candle closure here as well, and then look for your buying opportunities. But gold is already setting up, so I think you're pretty much solid there too. Nothing on silver. NASDAQ alert hit, but then it flipped right back up. So still, just wait it out. And US 30 is starting to get ready. You got a 5-minute bullish candle closure, making a bottom wick, break the previous highs. That's your entry. Okay, next thing is right here. Okay, nothing different than what we just read. The sentiment still from ECB is that they're going to continue increasing those rates, so nothing has changed from there either. All right, any questions on the fundamental side?
No question.
Cool. We're going to stay on for another about 15 minutes or so, but like I had already said in the earlier sessions this week, it's going to be kind of a slow week until we get up to NFP and actually get the data points. I'm still going to wait for bearish kind of closures for NASDAQ before jumping in, even if it does start to push back down. Just because we had a bearish kind of closure, but the next one just flipped back up and closed into the zone, which is clearly another little consolidation here. Okay, while we're waiting for 2 minutes, I'll be right back. Oh, nice. Alright, we're getting a drop. Alright, we got a nice strong 15-minute candle closure, but still no bottom wick, no top wick on the current one either. But we have really good bearish momentum. Let's come over to US 30. Nothing there just yet. Alright, we're getting close to NASDAQ. We might end up getting something during our live right now. What I'm waiting for here is still a pullback, because we did end up getting, strong candle closure, but I would have liked a top wick, which would make me have a tighter stop loss here. So I'm just going to wait for this candle closure. I'm going to wait for the next candle to give me a top wick. But once we clear down here, it's just clean moves coming down into 29,800, actually just below that too. Either way, 100 points is going to be quite an easy catch today. Yeah, started to pull back, which is a good thing. I would still want this candle to close bearish. The next one, give me a bottom wick right here on the current candle, and the next one create a top wick. Have a tight stop loss around 30,000, and then a continuation down. And we have a little bit of relief when it comes to the dollar at the moment. So I think we're pretty solid across the board. Alright, just a couple of seconds left here. Alright, here's the new 5, the last one. A lot of volume, ended up creating a bottom wick. So this one, I wanted to create a top wick, flip back down, continue pushing. I'm basically looking for confirmation because the previous 15 also had no top wick and no bottom wick, so that was a ton of bearish pressure to start off with. And then 30 minutes going to close here in just over 10 minutes as well. So I want my confirmations from the 30 minute, 15 minute of those top wicks, continuation down, create a tight stop loss, and have a solid entry to the downside. What I'm also looking at on the side is on TrendSpider. It is the beginning of a new quarter. So looking at any capital rotations that are happening, looking at stocks, options, futures, any awards that are potentially happening in the institutional data. So as of today, give me the broader market. Sector rotation signals. So healthcare is up almost 6%, which is the strongest sector by far over the last 2 weeks. Consumer is also getting good capital rotation, industrials. So these mainly are also why US 30 has been pushing up while NASDAQ and S&P 500, especially NASDAQ, has been dropping. The losers here have been energy, oil. Obviously, we know that because of the US and Iran. Headlines were getting improvements there. Tech as well has been the loser. Silver is obviously dropping, we know that too. So rotation seems to be out of tech and energy and into financials, healthcare, all that type of stuff. Yesterday, the article that we looked at for Bank of America and their equity research side saying, start taking profits and stuff, you're starting to see that here. With Google, massive neutral bearish sweeps at bid, likely closing longs. Huge bear spread and hedging for MU. Alright, so buying Nvidia, AVGO, Microsoft, Apple. So the basic big names. Selling IBM, Disney. I think this is Alibaba, GameStop. And the insider trades that are happening right now too. Alright, the first key theme here is Kevin Warsh. Obviously no forward guidance, we just saw that too. But bullish on AI as supply side expansion. $4.5 billion worth of outflows in June from Bitcoin, overall crypto, and moving into AI. Alright, smart money is buying QQQ calls for H2 while hedging near term. So that's a quick little overview of the capital rotation that we're seeing. So again, pushes the fact that we talked about in the weekly outlook, that it's not massive sales that are happening, it's just rotation that's happening in the market at the moment. Okay, cool. We're going to be on for another 5 minutes for this hourly candle closure, but just still waiting. US 30 has pulled back a little bit too. So we still have our alerts above the current high or below or around 52,300. NASDAQ did push back down, pulling back up, creating that top wick it seems like. I'm going to set my alert still down here. Look to the left, actually bring that up a little bit higher. What I'm looking for is resistance formation up top here. So whether that happens in the next 5 minutes or in the next hour and a half or whatever, I want a rejection up top here on the 15-minute or the 30-minute, and then continue to push back down. If I can get that rejection on the 30-minute, that would be much better. So then I can have a tight stop loss, and then first target is going to be coming down into just under 29,800. Once that's cleared out, clean move coming down into 29,500, and then even lower than that. If I don't get those top wick rejections, or if I can't see price breaking the previous lows here and continue to push back down, then most likely price is going to come back into consolidation. I think that's going to happen in the next hour and a half, almost 2 hours, where you're going to start to see consolidation back into that zone, and that's going to be ahead of NFP. We didn't get anything out of Kevin Warsh today in terms of forward guidance and what to expect, so the market's really going to be looking towards NFP tomorrow. For gold, same thing. Create an alert right up top here. It didn't really push much. We're still sitting on top, so as long as we're holding onto this area as support, not really dipping down, the buys are still solid. And not much on silver here just yet either. So that is what we're looking at. We have just a couple more minutes. All right, 3 minutes left for this hourly candle closure. Let's actually take a look at the hourly time frame too. Yeah, just give it room to create that top wick on the next hourly and then continue pushing. US 30 is pushing heavy. We just saw why. It's the same thing here. Like this one actually create a bottom wick and then continue pushing, and you're solid there. Give it the candle closure. All right, everyone have their alert set. Any questions?
No questions at all. No questions. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So have your alert set. Just know what type of setup start you're looking at. If you have any questions, just message me on Discord. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We have our alerts. Just being extra patient today. Wait for the new hourly candle. And that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys